Alright children, welcome back to AP Macroeconomics with your favorite teacher, me, Mr. Fritz. Today we're going to be talking about unemployment. These are unemployment formulas. So first, there's the labor force. Your labor force is going to be made up of the people that are unemployed and looking for a job, plus the people that are already employed and have a job. That's going to be the labor force. Labor force is made up of the people that don't have a job and are currently looking, plus the people that have a job. So your labor force participation rate then is going to be the percentage of people that are percentage of adults over the age of 16 that are in the labor force. So it's going to be your labor force divided by the entire adult population, people 16 and over. So labor force divided by adult population times 100. And then finally down here at the bottom, the biggest one, the one that you're going to have to remember and memorize for the rest of the year for forever, our unemployment rate. This is the percentage of people that are in the labor force who are unemployed and looking for a job. So your unemployment rate is going to be equal to, now we can't see. Your unemployment rate is going to be equal to the number of unemployed people who are looking for a job divided by the entire labor force times 100. Okay, and now we're going to get into a little bit of practice problems here so I can show you how this really works. All right, before you get going, I want to show you a couple examples of how to calculate unemployment. Remember, the first thing you're going to need is to figure out what your labor force is. Your labor force is going to be made up of both people that have a job, so our employed people, which right now would be 95. Then we need to add to that anybody that is unemployed but looking for a job. Remember, they don't count if they're not looking for a job. So these people down here that are not in the labor force, obviously, don't count. They're not part of our labor force. The two frictionally unemployed people will count as part of the labor force. Our one structurally unemployed person is also going to count as part of the labor force. And then finally, these two cyclically unemployed people are going to count as part of our labor force. So if we have here 95 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2, that is going to come out to 100. We have 100 people in our labor force in this little economy that I've just made up. Next, we can find out what our labor force participation rate is. For that, you're going to take your amount of people that are in your labor force, so that's 100, and we're going to divide it by the total adult population. That's going to be 150. So we have the 100 people that are in the labor force, and we need to add to that our 50 people that are not in the labor force. So 100 divided by 150 is going to come out to, divided by 50 is 2 and 3, 2 over 3. 2/3, which will be what? About 66%, 66, 67%. So our labor force participation rate for this country is 66%. You just take your number of people that are in the labor force and divide it by the total adult population, and that came out to 66%. Next, let's figure out what the unemployment rate is. Next, to get the unemployment rate, we're going to take our number of unemployed people divided by our labor force times 100. All right, for this, we're going to take our number of unemployed. We had 2 frictionally unemployed, 1 structurally unemployed, and 2 cyclically unemployed people. That's going to come out to 5 people that are actually unemployed and looking for work in this country. And then we're going to divide it by our labor force, which we already calculated as being 100 people. So it's going to be 5 divided by 100 times 100, and that will give us our unemployment rate. And so that's going to come out to 5%. 5 divided by 100 times 100 is 5. So we have a 5% unemployment rate in this country. Something that we can keep in mind to figure out what that actually means. First, let's figure out what our natural rate of unemployment is. Finally, to figure out what our natural rate of unemployment is, we're going to do the same formula that we did before for the unemployment rate, our number of unemployed divided by the labor force, but this time we're going to only include people that are naturally unemployed. The 2 types of unemployment that make up the natural unemployment rate are going to be our frictionally unemployed people, so 2, plus our structurally unemployed people, so 2 plus 1. So we have 3 people in this country that are actually naturally unemployed, And then we take that 3 people, divide it by the labor force, times 100. And what we have there then is a 3% natural unemployment rate. So when this country is at full employment output, we would expect them to have a 3% unemployment rate. And that means because our actual unemployment rate is 5% right now, that means that this country's in a recession. We are experiencing 2% cyclical unemployment, and any amount of cyclical unemployment is going to be evidence of a recession. So this country's in a recession. They got to do something to figure out how to get out of that. All right, that's how you calculate the different types of unemployment and the labor force participation rate. Great job, children. Hooray! Goodbye.